Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show. As first responders, we risk our lives every day. Our financial security is under attack. Our pensions are in a state of emergency. A single on-duty incident can alter or erase our earning potential instantly and forever. We are the heroes of society. We are self-reliant and we need to take care of our own financial future. The Heroic Investing Show is our toolkit of business and investing tactics on our mission to financial freedom.
Welcome to the Heroic Investing Show, a podcast for first responders, members of the military, veterans, and anyone looking to improve their financial future and gain some freedom with their time. We teach America's heroes how to build passive income, build their startup business, and safely grow wealth through real estate and other alternative investments. We help current and prior first responders put protections, systems, and a team in place to help them build a life where they can focus on their passion, that service or product that they are uniquely gifted to share with others, making the world a better place for all of us. My name is Gary Pinkerton, and I co-host this show with Jason Hartman. This is episode 230, episode 230. And as we do on all 10th episodes here on the Heroic Investing and on Creating Wealth, we're going to go off topic to something of general life interest. And as you know, typically I'm focusing on things that are personal development, personal growth focused, maybe health focused, but it's something that's going to help you play at a higher level because it is my intent that the audience for this podcast is someone who is looking to share their unique genius with the world, start that business, start that service, something where they are better at something than everyone else around them. And I want you to be able to share that. And I want you to be able to share it with a lot of people, which means you need to perform at a higher level. And that's why I'm a personal development junkie and someone who tries to put the best of the best in that realm to all of my awesome followers here on Heroic Investing. This episode is with Dr. Alan Zimmerman. He is an internationally recognized motivational speaker for business. In addition to being a lifelong student, he is the author of the Payoff Principle, the 3 secrets for getting what you want out of life and work, and the best-selling book, Pivot, How One Simple Turn in Attitude Can Lead to Success. His blog tackles subjects such as how to get what you want, how to be a great leader, and how to reframe any type of situation into a positive one. That is Gary in essence right there, right? He believes everyone should have an attitude of gratitude, and chasing happiness is dangerous. That alone should be adequate to take a faithful Heroic Investing listener who's focused on growth and remaining positive into this episode. I hope you really enjoy Dr. Alan Zimmerman.
It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Alan Zimmerman to the show. He is an internationally recognized motivational speaker for business, helping people to maximize their payoffs. He's the author of the bestseller, Pivot, How One Simple Turn in Attitude Can Lead to Success, and also author of the new book, The Payoff Principle. Discover the 3 secrets for getting what you want out of life and work. Alan, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jason. Glad to be here.
Yeah. It's good to have you here. And before we started recording, I kind of misquoted Earl Nightingale, but I just remember as I'm talking to you, that the incredible importance of this topic. And when I was 17 years old and discovered Earl Nightingale, I remember him saying, to ask the role of attitude in one's success is like asking what the role of H2O is in the Pacific Ocean.
Well said.
So, this is vitally, vitally important to every aspect of life, isn't it?
Well, the strange thing is we've done tons of research for years on this at universities, etc., and it comes down to something very simple. Almost always good attitudes lead to good results and bad attitudes lead to bad results.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to escape that. Maybe there will be a lucky exception once in a while, but 99% of the time I would say you got to be right about that. So what can we do to control our attitudes? Is it under our control?
Well, absolutely. When people say, I can't help the way I feel or I've always been this way, it's really a lie. They may not know how to change the attitude, but it's changeable and controllable. The first thing I recommend is to act as if. It's an old psychological trick, but has a lot of power. In other words, if you wait until you feel positive, you'll wait forever. You have to start acting that way. behave confidently, have an upbeat tone to your voice. Actions always precede feelings.
Interesting, yeah. So that feedback loop, it is a circle, but we can jump in that circle and create feelings. It's not like feelings are just, some random circumstance. They're created. They're created by us, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of control people don't realize. One of the things that we can do to become more of an actor instead of a reactor is to see something positive in every situation. Not everything is good. Not everything is easy. Not everything is positive. But there's always something positive there. It may be a chance to meet somebody else, learn a lesson from that presentation, feedback that'll make me better at my next sales attempt, to see something positive in all situations. And what I find is that those who struggle, those who have the poorest attitude, when they fail, they use it as an excuse to give up. But those who really win use failure as a lesson for the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit about sales, and I just want to say to the audience that we are all in sales. We're always trying to sell an idea, whether it's what movie are we going to see tonight or where are we going to go for dinner versus something more important like actually being in business and in the business of sales. So we're all in the sales business. I think that's important to understand as a context for what we're going to talk about. But what are some of the sales formulas that you recommend to people to be really, really exceptional?
I use a formula that I call purpose plus passion plus process equals payoff. And the thing I find wrong in a lot of the research, a lot of the books on sales, on success, is they focus on one of those elements. They may focus on purpose, for example, and they'll say to have a purpose-driven life. Well, certainly that's true, but we all know folks who have a great sense of purpose don't have much to show for it. The second part, the passion, that's the attitude. And we hear about things such as attitude is everything. Not quite true. A big part of success, but not everything. We all know folks who have a great attitude. But when it comes to getting results, they leave a lot to be desired. And the third element, process, that's the sales skills, the things you do. We have all three of those things in place, in good shape. Purpose, passion, process, you get amazingly good payoffs.
I like that. It's easy to remember, the 3 Ps, purpose, passion, and is that what you said, process?
Yeah, process, exactly.
So let's kind of drill down on those if we could, Alan. Maybe go into a little more detail on each of those 3.
Yeah. The first one is purpose. It's as simple as thinking if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. What's your purpose? Why are you here on earth? What are you trying to achieve? What's your goal? What's your dream? And it's a word that people use but don't often figure out what their purpose is. And so I use a 3-legged stool. Each leg on the stool represents a key question you have to ask yourself. When you get an answer to each question, you get the platform of the stool, which is your purpose. The first leg asks the question, what are you good at? We've all got talents, abilities. Write them down. Spend 2-3 days if you need to, but get the longest list possible. What are you good at? Second leg, and that is what excites you? What turns you on? What gets your motivational juices pumped up? Got to know what excites you. And thirdly, what difference do you want to make? Maybe it is in your industry, with your clients, with your family, in the world, your church, whatever. When you know those 3 answers, you get a clear purpose, and that's a driving force for the other 2 steps of the process. So first of all, there's the purpose. Once you've got a purpose figured out, some call it goals, some call it dreams, I simply call it purpose. The second element, the passion, that has 3 elements as well. In terms of the passion, part of that is attitude. I look at a fire, and for a fire to be effective, it needs 3 things. The fire needs some fuel. Maybe it's wood, maybe it's coal. Needs some fuel. That particular fuel I call attitude. It's part of the passion. But to keep on burning, that fire needs oxygen. It needs persistence. It also needs a fire ring. Otherwise, it gets out of control. And that guidance, that fire ring is character. With attitude, persistence and character. You get a fire that burns hot. You got the passion. That's the second element.
I really like that fire ring metaphor. That's a good one. I've never heard that before, because passion uncontrolled is just reckless, isn't it?
Watch any news program. You'll see exactly what happens without a character or fire ring. And the last one is process, and that is, what are the skills to accomplish what you want to achieve? And I talk about 4 sets of skills. 2 of them are personal skills. One is the whole idea of affirmations, programming your mind for success. You can put the right kinds of thoughts in to get the right results out. Part of that is avoiding mind binders. People saying, I can't close a sale. I can't prospect. I'm no good at giving a presentation. I can't do such and such. As long as they think that way, they will not have success. You need to get some positive affirmations in your mind. That's one process. Another process is continuing education. You can't expect to be better at sales or anything else without continual education. And one of the big mistakes people make is thinking that yesterday's skills are enough for tomorrow's expectations. Not true. There's also 2 interpersonal skills in this process, and that is what I call connective communication and compassionate listening. How do I connect with other people so they want to hear me, take me seriously, we have mutual respect, and to give me their willing cooperation? But also, how do I listen so I understand their needs so I can meet those needs? Those 4 processes are key.
Yeah, interesting. Really, really interesting stuff. See, we can all control the process, can't we? So all we really need to do is just ask ourselves in any given situation, if we're feeling down, if we're feeling bad about the world, bad about ourselves, bad about our lives, whatever, we can just ask ourselves, have we done the things in the process? The process is completely under our control, right?
Yeah, so much the case. I'll hear people say to me, I gave it my all. I gave 100% to some project, and they're still failing. When I coach them, I interview them more carefully. Maybe it's a salesperson. He'll say, I sent out 1,000 emails and didn't get any response. And they call that 100% effort. And I would say, no. 100% effort might be doing more than other salespeople. It's researching your product more deeply, coming early, staying late, making more phone calls, sending more notes, asking for more referrals, going to more classes. It's doing a lot more, so that would be 100% effort. Those are under our control.
Talk about this from both sides, and let's talk about the work environment for a moment if we can. How does this apply to business owners or managers in a corporate environment and employees? In terms of employees who think, I don't like it here, I want to leave, I want to quit my job, should they be thinking of some of these processes you mentioned, or the 3 Ps? And what should managers do when they face various frustrations and challenges?
You made a good comment at the beginning, Jason, about everybody being a salesperson, and that's true, whether you're selling to your spouse, to your customers, to your colleagues. And if that's the case, people don't realize the power of persistent communication, asking for what you need. For example, research tells us that 92% of salespeople give up after the 4th call or 4th no. And yet 60% of people who buy after saying no 4 times. What that tells me, the majority of sales, most of business goes to a minority of folks who are persistent enough to keep at it. So part of what I would suggest is to learn how to ask for what you need is a powerful skill. How do you phrase it so they are willing to say, yes, I'll listen, I'll follow, I'll get on board?
Okay, so there is a technique in terms of the way you ask, how you phrase it, rather than just asking. I mean, asking is better than nothing, I would guess, because, you've got to at least ask, right? But what's that technique? Distill that a little bit for us, if you would.
In a very succinct fashion, it has 3 parts. Will you? When you do? If you don't? Will you be at the meeting at 8 o'clock sharp? You're specific, you're positive, you're firm, you're expecting a positive response. The second part, when you do what I'm asking, what's the positive consequence? For example, you ask your kids to do something, they always say, well, why? Well, all adults are
big kids.
Children.
They're big kids.
Children in big bodies, right?
Yeah, right.
Adults think the same way. Why? Well, when you come to the meeting at 8 o'clock, We'll finish by 9 o'clock, I can assure you of that. When you give out that presentation, we have a better chance of keeping that account. And the third part, if you don't do what I'm asking, what's the possible negative consequence? Not meant to be a threat, simply the big picture. If we don't do certain things, we lose customers, lose time, energy, momentum. When you put those three elements together, you increase dramatically the chance of getting a yes.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's good formula. I want to ask you, well, just maybe finish up on the employer-employee relationship, if you would, because I want to ask you about one of your particularly interesting blog posts about happiness. I really enjoyed this one. But more comments on the employer-employee relationship?
Well, one of the things that people sometimes don't realize, that it is a relationship. I don't take that word lightly. People spend more time with their coworkers, their bosses, their customers than they do oftentimes their aunts, uncles, kids, spouses. We spend so much time with them. And so not attending to the relationship, not working on making it better is rather foolish. I would say there's 3-4 things you have to do. One is respect. It's non-negotiable. Doesn't mean you agree with people, but you must communicate respect to build a relationship. Secondly, keep them informed. This old idea of no news is good news might sound catchy, but it doesn't work. People want to know as much as possible. Thirdly, and that is tangibles. What did they get out of the relationship? Maybe it is your attention, a better chance of serving a customer, a promotion. There's something tangible they get out of that. So respect, keeping informed, something tangible. And it may sound silly, but there's an element of fun in a relationship. It's not grim, gloom and doom. It's fun communicating with the other person.
Absolutely. Okay, good. So let's talk about happiness for a moment if we can now. Attitude obviously plays a huge role in this. But you have an interesting blog post, and it's entitled, Is Happiness a Dangerous Goal? And so I want to ask you about that. But one of the parts that I just love here is the way you help people practice the attitude of gratitude, and how you turn, every lemon into lemonade. It's just awesome the way you did that in here. Is happiness a dangerous goal? It's an interesting, compelling title.
I've surveyed thousands of people and I ask, what do you want out of life? And by far the number one answer is people say, I just want to be happy. Well, that's fine, but what is it? If you don't know what it is, it's very hard to achieve it. And happiness is a little dangerous because it is determined by something else happening first, and then I'll be happy. It makes you a victim instead of a creator of circumstances. It's not a choice you make, it's a result you get. So it disempowers you. So I think happiness is nice to have, certainly, not against it, but it's a little bit dangerous to seek that as the goal.
So what should we be seeking as the goal then?
Well, I like the word joy because that's a choice. I can choose to be joyful, even though I may have some pain in my life, have some difficulties, and we all do. It's a choice I make. Attitude is not something somebody gives you. It's partly the choice you make, and you can choose to be joyful or positive. And one of the ways you can choose to be joyful and encourage the happiness to take place is practice that attitude of gratitude. As you mentioned in my blog post on that, one simple thing I tell people, take a walk outside, find a nice day, walk by yourself, and outside say 1,000 times out loud, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you 1,000 times. And what'll happen when something negative comes into your life? Something you're grateful for will pop back into your mind and neutralize that negativity. You can literally practice an attitude of gratitude until it becomes a part of who you are.
Yeah, it really does. But I think the reframing that you talk about in your blog post is really excellent. I'll just share some of the examples of that. I'm thankful for, and then, the teenager who's not doing the dishes but is watching TV, because that means he is home and not out on the streets. Okay? And here's one. I remember many years ago now, I have since canceled this goal that I'm about to share with you. But many years ago in my early 20s, I remember thinking I was starting out in my real estate career back then, and I was making a lot of money. And I remember I paid the IRS about $140,000 that year. And I actually took the check and I stuck it on my wall. And I thought, my goal is to pay the IRS $1 million a year, because that means I'll make about $4 million, right? And, well, not so much anymore, but the tax rates are higher. But I've since canceled that goal because I know there are ways to get around those big taxes and still make a lot of money by owning properties. But what's interesting here is you say, I'm thankful for the taxes I pay because it means I'm employed. Look, they don't take part of money you don't earn, right? So that is, these reframes are really good. I'm thankful for the clothes that fit it a little too snug because that it means that I have enough to eat, right? Looking at the bright side, reframing things. Of course, one of the most famous reframes ever is probably the Reagan-Mondale debates, where Mondale called Reagan out on his age, and Reagan famously said, "I will not make my opponent's youth and inexperience an issue in this campaign." He just won everybody over with that. But
it was classic, and it turned the election.
It probably did. That one statement probably did. But, I mean, these reframes are great. Do you want to share any others?
Well, I think you mentioned quite a few there.
There's a whole list of them here. Yeah. There's a whole list, Yeah. I'm thankful. And finally, I'm thankful for too much email because it means I have friends, or really it should be people, business people maybe, who are thinking of me, right?
Yeah, you can reframe. There's always something positive there. One person that I learned a great deal from, a colleague of mine, happened to be one of the Iran hostages when we had that situation years ago. They were locked up for 444 days. And he came back and said that was the greatest experience of his lifetime. And I thought, what? And he said he found out it was great because when he got back to American soil, he realized that he could make it through a tough situation, that it didn't matter if he went bankrupt or not, he could always start over, that he had what it took to get through challenges. It changed his whole way of thinking. And it happened to me a bit later during the Khmer Rouge killings in Laos and Cambodia. I was working with the refugees that were escaping to the refugee camps in Thailand. And I listened to them talk about their situations of despair and escape, and came back to my home and realized I had kids who were complaining about having to unload the dishwasher. Like that was a major task in life. Let them know that some folks don't have dishes, let alone dishwashers, let alone food, to cut the griping and start the appreciating. I began working literally on those reframes that you've talked about. You can always find something positive. Look for that, and you'll do so much better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah, it definitely is. Well, Alan, give out your website. Tell people where they can find out more and find the books.
Well, thank you. Yes. My website is simply drzimmerman.com. That's DRZIMMERMAN, drzimmerman.com. And there's several things you can find there. My newest book is The Payoff Principle. Discover how 3 secrets lead to success. You'll also find my blog, my newsletter. I've got a large subscription of people getting my weekly blogs, as you just received mine today. Feel free to sign up for that. Love to be part of that. Again, drzimmerman.com.
Good. Dr. Alan Zimmerman, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.